A diplomatic bombshell just dropped that could shake North American alliances. A U.S. ambassador was reportedly caught saying Canada can ignore Washington when it comes to a $28 billion fighter jet deal. One candid remark, and suddenly questions about sovereignty, trust, and the future of U.S.-Canada relations are dominating headlines. Stay tuned, because what happens next could change the game for both nations. For decades, U.S.-Canada relations have been defined by a mixture of cooperation, friendly rivalry, and mutual respect. Both nations share not just a border, but a history of strategic alliances, trade agreements, and military partnerships. So, when a U.S. diplomat suggests that a Canadian decision of this scale could be taken independently, without serious repercussions or consultation, it challenges assumptions about how tightly these two governments coordinate on defense and procurement issues. The $28 billion fighter jet deal itself has been under scrutiny for years. Canadian officials have debated costs, domestic production involvement, and strategic fit. The deal represents one of the largest defense acquisitions in Canadian history, and for good reason. Such a large investment involves not only financial outlay, but also long-term implications for military readiness, bilateral defense agreements, and industrial partnerships. Now, with this ambassador's comments in the spotlight, questions about the deal's political and diplomatic context are taking center stage. The recording reportedly captures the ambassador in a candid moment, suggesting that Washington's objections or opinions could be treated as secondary when Canada makes decisions that affect its own military capabilities. While the precise wording and tone are still being analyzed, the reaction has been immediate. Political leaders, defense experts, and media outlets are all weighing in on what this means for North American defense diplomacy. In Ottawa, reactions have been a mix of shock, cautious interest, and strategic calculation. Some officials see the statement as potentially empowering, giving Canada room to assert its own priorities in the deal. Others, however, are concerned about the diplomatic fallout. To publicly acknowledge that the U.S. might tolerate independent Canadian action without retaliation could be interpreted as undermining Washington's authority or signaling a lack of cohesion in joint defense planning. The balance between asserting sovereignty and maintaining a cooperative alliance has never been more delicate. In Washington, the fallout is equally intense. Lawmakers and defense analysts are debating whether the ambassador's remarks reflect official U.S. policy or are simply a misstep in off-the-record communication. The State Department has not issued a full statement, but sources suggest internal reviews are underway to determine the context, intent, and potential repercussions of the comments. Diplomacy is, after all, built on nuance, and an offhand remark can quickly spiral into a headline-grabbing controversy when microphones, or leaks, are involved. Analysts note that the timing of this revelation is particularly sensitive. With global tensions rising and defense budgets under close scrutiny, any perception of disunity between allies can have real-world consequences. Russia, China, and other global actors closely monitor North American defense decisions, and even a hint of disagreement between the U.S. and Canada could be interpreted as an opportunity or weakness. In this context, what might seem like a casual remark can carry implications far beyond the immediate conversation. Beyond politics, the economic dimensions of the deal are massive. The $28 billion investment touches Canadian defense contractors, supply chains, and employment in high-tech sectors. A perceived shift in decision-making power or U.S. oversight could affect negotiations, production timelines, and strategic commitments. For companies and workers involved in the contract, stability and predictability are key, and the ambassador's comments may introduce uncertainty that was not previously anticipated. The public reaction has been intense as well. Canadians on social media have expressed a mixture of amusement, pride, and concern. Some see the ambassador's remarks as a diplomatic gaffe, highlighting a level of candor rarely seen in official communications. Others view it as a tacit acknowledgement of Canadian sovereignty, a rare moment where a major ally appears to recognize that Canada can make independent choices in its defense strategy without immediate pressure from Washington. Meanwhile, U.S. media has dissected the implications for American foreign policy. The ambassador's words, if taken at face value, raise questions about how Washington balances influence over close allies with respect for their independent decision-making. It also sparks a broader discussion about the role of ambassadors. Are they merely messengers of official policy, or do they reflect the subtleties, opinions, and informal understandings that shape international relations? This incident highlights that the line between private diplomacy and public perception can be razor-thin. Defense experts are particularly interested in the strategic consequences. The fighter jet deal is not just about planes. It's about interoperability, joint training, and coordinated response capabilities. If Canada exercises greater autonomy in procurement, it could alter planning assumptions for combined missions, NATO commitments, and contingency operations. Experts caution, however, that autonomy does not equate to isolation. Even if Canada chooses a path independent of Washington's preferred options, the two militaries will still need to maintain cohesion in operations, training exercises, and intelligence sharing. Politically, opposition parties in Canada have seized on the news as ammunition to question the government's negotiation strategy. Some argue that this revelation underscores the importance of assertive diplomacy, suggesting that Canada should fully leverage its bargaining power. Others caution that while independence in decision-making is valuable, it should not come at the cost of long-term alliance stability. The debate highlights the delicate interplay between sovereignty, strategic interests, and alliance obligations that define modern defense policy. The ambassador's statement has also fueled discussions about accountability. Diplomats are generally expected to navigate complex relationships with subtlety, balancing transparency with discretion. A single comment, leaked or recorded, can prompt public scrutiny, internal review, and political questioning. In this case, questions abound. Was the comment taken out of context? Did it represent a broader shift in U.S. policy toward Canadian procurement? And most importantly, what does it mean for the future of U.S.-Canada defense cooperation? Internationally, allies and competitors are watching closely. NATO partners, for example, may reassess assumptions about North American cohesion in defense planning. Meanwhile, rival nations may interpret the remark as an opportunity to exploit perceived fissures. Diplomatic analysts point out that such comments, even if offhand, can ripple across global defense networks, impacting perceptions of reliability, unity, and strategic alignment. The financial implications also warrant attention. A $28 billion contract is not just about jets. It represents decades of investment, contracts for maintenance, training, upgrades, and domestic industrial participation. Any perception of uncertainty can influence stock markets, contractor negotiations, and investor confidence. Governments, corporations, and citizens alike must account for both the direct costs and the indirect impact of perceived instability in major defense acquisitions. As the story unfolds, it raises broader questions about the modern role of ambassadors. Traditionally, ambassadors are expected to convey policy, build relationships, and manage delicate situations behind closed doors. But in the age of leaks, social media, and rapid global communication, even casual remarks can become international news within hours. The ambassador's candidness may have been intended as a reassurance or a private insight, but it now serves as a case study in how private diplomacy can collide with public perception. In Canada, the government faces a strategic crossroads. It must weigh the benefits of asserting its autonomy against the risks of straining relations with its closest neighbor and ally. How it navigates the fallout will have long-term implications not just for this $28 billion deal, but for the broader U.S.-Canada relationship. Officials are reportedly reviewing both messaging and policy options to manage domestic and international reactions, ensuring that sovereignty is preserved while diplomatic trust remains intact. The U.S. response will also be critical. Whether Washington clarifies, distances itself, or doubles down on its existing position will send signals not just to Canada, but to the global community. Allies and adversaries alike are monitoring how the United States manages both its internal diplomacy and its external relationships. In a world where perception is often as important as reality, every statement, nuance, and gesture is being analyzed. For defense analysts, political commentators, and the public, this episode is more than just a diplomatic curiosity. It is a reminder of how fragile alliances can appear, how quickly private statements can become international headlines, and how individual actors, even those within established systems, can alter narratives with a single remark. The balance of power, trust, and strategic alignment is delicate, and even a candid comment about a fighter jet deal can ripple across continents. The story is still developing. Further clarifications, official statements, and potential policy adjustments are expected in the coming days. Both Ottawa and Washington are under pressure to manage the narrative, reassure stakeholders, and navigate the fine line between sovereignty and alliance obligations. In the meantime, the incident has sparked widespread debate about diplomacy, defense strategy, and the evolving role of ambassadors in an age where no comment truly remains private. What is clear is that this diplomatic bombshell has captured global attention. It highlights the complexity of modern defense procurement, the high stakes of international diplomacy, and the intricate balance between asserting national interests and maintaining strong alliances. For Canadian officials, U.S. policymakers, and the international community, the lessons are immediate. Words matter, context matters, and in diplomacy, even a single comment can have far-reaching consequences. As this story continues to unfold, it will be watched closely not just for what it says about fighter jets or contracts, but for what it reveals about the dynamics of North American alliances, the power of candid diplomacy, and the ever-present tension between national autonomy and international cooperation. This is a moment that will be analyzed, debated, and remembered as a rare glimpse behind the curtain of high-stakes diplomacy, showing that even in the corridors of power, one remark can ignite global attention. For policymakers, industry leaders, and citizens alike, the takeaway is unmistakable. In today's interconnected world, diplomacy is never private. Decisions carry weight far beyond borders, and even $28 billion deals are subject to scrutiny far wider than anyone anticipated. What happens next could redefine not just a contract, but the tone, trust, and trajectory of U.S.-Canada relations for years to come. This is more than just news. It is a lesson in diplomacy, strategy, and the fragile high-stakes game that defines international relations. And as officials, analysts, and citizens watch closely, one question looms large. How will Canada respond? How will Washington react? And what does this mean for the future of one of the world's most enduring alliances? The answers, for now, remain uncertain, but the impact of this revelation is already being felt across North America and beyond.